Good morning, fine people. Look at all of your fellow congregants who figured out which bridges they could come across. Go team. A hearty welcome to you who are here and those of you who are at home listening. I invite you to stand as you're willing and able, and let's sing Love Will Guide Us, 131 in the hymnal.
Good morning. Everyone, welcome to First Unitarian Church. We're a multi-generational community that strives to nurture the individual spirit and together build a beloved community. Whether you're here in the sanctuary or joining us online, we are so glad you're with us this morning. Following the service, I invite you to join fellow congregants for social hour just below us in Fuller Hall. And if you're new here this morning, I invite you to join us for a brief welcome circle directly following the service over here in the gallery to your right. This is a chance to meet some community leaders, staff, and other new folks. I have a few announcements this morning. First, a few updates regarding our music ministry transition team. Our music ministry team continues its work and is presently receiving applicants for the acting director of music. We know many of you continue to have questions and concerns regarding this transition. In response, our Board of Trustees has written a frequently asked questions document. If you did not get a copy last week, we hope you'll pick up a copy this morning at the welcome desk and at the board table in Fuller Hall after the service. And if you're online, you can request a copy by emailing FAQ@firstunitarianportland.org. We encourage everyone to read it, as transparent and accurate information is important as we move toward healing our divisions and building a vibrant and healthy music ministry that will serve our entire congregation. And in the spirit of wanting to create spaces for us to come together as a community to reflect on these recent changes, you are invited to join a listening circle on August 25th or September 8th, 11:45 to 2 p.m. These one-time gatherings and will be facilitated by members of our lay ministry team and Board of Trustees. You can find more information about how to join in the front steps. We hope you'll join us on Sunday, August 25th, after the service in the Buchanan Reception Hall to boost our UU the Vote efforts into high gear. We'll be joining online by our faith siblings from UU the Vote campaign and from Arizona Justice Network to hear about what's at stake and how we can put our values into action to turn out voters in Arizona. Look for more information in the front steps and visit the UU the Vote table in Fuller Hall with the blue tablecloth after service to find out more and take part in our important ongoing letter writing efforts. And lastly, Sunday, August 25th, is the annual question box service. This is a time for members, friends, and visitors to ask questions of Reverend Allison about faith in general, Unitarian Universalism in particular, our congregation, or whatever question is on your heart and mind. Please drop your questions in the question box outside the sanctuary or email them to q.and.a@firstunitarianportland.org by Thursday, August 22nd. Volunteers will go through them, make selections, and send the questions for Sunday morning. And now, let us take a few minutes to greet our neighbors. Now, Danielle will join me in lighting the chalice. We are Unitarian Universalists. We light this chalice in faith, in hope, and in love.
First, a big note of gratitude to Theo for assisting me today as well as singing in the summer choir. So thank you, Theo. I call us into this time of worship together with words from Gary Kowalski. In this quiet hour, may our spirits be renewed. In this gathering of friends, may we be ready to extend ourselves to those in need and with trust receive the hand that is offered. In this community of ideals, may we remember the principles that guide us and reflect upon those things that give meaning to our lives, renewing our dedication to serve the highest that we know. In this time of worship, may our minds be open to new truth and our hearts be receptive to love. As we give thanks for this life we are blessed to share. Now let us rise as we are able in body or in spirit and sing together the oneness of everything. Actually, I'm going to have you stand up again. Sorry, everyone. Or be seated if it's more comfortable. It's summer, it's fine. The words for our responsive reading today are by poet Derek Walcott. The time will come when with elation you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit, feast on your life. Now let us join in our doxology, Spirit of Life.
It is our practice to share our offering each week with organizations that reflect our own church mission. This summer, we are focusing on Unitarian Universalist organizations. Today, we share our offering with the two Unitarian Universalist identified theological schools, Starr King School for the Ministry and Meadville Lombard Theological School. Our UU identified schools play a particular role in educating UU ministers. They also play an incubating role for evolving theologies in our larger movement. If you'd like to give here, a QR code will appear shortly. If you are online, you can also use Donate button on Boxcast. And for those in person who want to give by cash or check, ushers will be coming by shortly. Thank you for your generosity, which sustains the ministry of this congregation and our partners in the larger community. During our service each week, we take time to hold the prayer intentions of our community. If you are here in person, you can light a candle of intention in one of our galleries, or if you're online, you can send them to prayer@firstunitarianportland.org. Our ministers and wonderful lay ministers team are here to hold your prayers and provide care throughout the week. I have a few parish concerns to share this morning. Member Sarah Von de Heij shares that her dad, Tom, died recently after being on hospice for over a year. Tom was 81, was a proud and loving father of his 3 daughters. Sarah, who often sits up there near the front window, welcomes you, holding her and her family in your tender thoughts. She also gladly accepts consensual hugs or a pat on the shoulder. We hold our receptionist and executive assistant, John Rosette, in our hearts. This morning, John's brother, Michael Eugene Rosette, passed away on August 6th at the age of 61 after living with colon cancer. John was by his brother's side when he died, along with their sister, Kathy, Michael's wife, Mackenzie, and his children, Caden and Allie. We send our love and care to John and his family this morning. Chris Gates' brother, Richard, died doing what he loved, riding on his motorcycle with the wind in his hair on Tuesday, August 6th, in rural Arkansas. He is survived by his wife, Daisy, brother, Chris, and sister, Lisa. He was a rock in the family and loved living in the country. Chris is still recovering well from last month's surgery and appreciates all the love and support of this congregation. And the chancel flowers today are provided in loving memory from the family of Bino Phillipson. Bino's celebration of life will be this afternoon at 2 p.m. in the Elliott Chapel. Will you join me in the spirit of prayer? Dear Spirit of life, thank you for giving us this day. Please be with us as we go through our lives. Help us to persevere and find joy, solitude, good friends, and a measure of peace. Be gracious to those of us who are in pain. Help us to carry our loads, to hold fast to our chosen tasks, that we may discern what is needed and what can be let go. I ask you, Great Spirit, to be with our leaders. Help them to understand the work they are called to recognize that their charge is to be of service, not to mold the world in their image. Please let your love shine on the earth and the living things here. Help us to do our job to ensure the health of this planet. I ask these things in the name of all that is holy. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be. And now let us join together for a few moments of silence. Now let us remain seated as we join in singing our next hymn, Voice Still and Small. When I was asked to join in doing this service, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to create this whole thing myself. But as it turns out, our ministerial staff have it all laid out for me. This poem, however, which they picked, I think is just marvelous. The reading, What You Missed the Day You Were Absent from 4th Grade, by Brad Aaron Modlin. Listen. Mrs. Nelson explained how to stand still and listen to the wind, how to find meaning in pumping gas, how peeling potatoes can be a form of prayer. She took questions on how not to feel lost in the dark. After lunch, she distributed worksheets that covered ways to remember your grandfather's voice. Then the class discussed falling asleep without feeling you have forgotten to do something else, something important, and how to believe the house you wake in is your home. This prompted Mrs. Nelson to draw a chalkboard diagram detailing how to chant the Psalms during cigarette breaks, and how to not to squirm for sounds when your thoughts are all you hear. Also, that you have enough. The English lesson was that I am is a complete sentence. And just before the afternoon bell, she made the math equation look easy, the one that proves that hundreds of questions and feelings, cold, and all those nights spent looking for whatever was lost, and one person add up to something.
That was beautiful, choir. Thank you. So several years back, my wife and I bought a pair of kayaks from Costco. And we soon realized that as short people, trying to load and unload the kayaks on top of our car was a chore that led to more fights than a marriage can probably withstand in the long term. So they've now found a good home with my brother-in-law and his family in Missouri. But when the kayaks were still ours, we joked that, like any proper watercraft, they needed names. So my kayak was called No Regrets, and my wife's was called Second Thoughts. We have very different natural inclinations when it comes to looking back on the choices that we've made. We'll book a hotel for a trip, and I will happily fall asleep only to wake up later and find her still on the computer reading reviews for different hotels and checking the cancellation policy of the one that we had booked. And I imagine that some of you are probably nudging a partner or sibling or friend right now because you recognize this own dynamic in your relationships. But even those of us who lean more towards the no regrets side of things probably still have stuff that keeps us up at nights. I've spent nights replaying conversations in my head, regretting particular word choices, or thinking about sermons I wish I'd ended differently, or thinking about a text from a friend that I have left unanswered. Have you ever been just like right on the edge of sleep, and then out of nowhere you're seized by this thought that it's been like 10 or 20 years since you talked to your college roommate, and why are you so bad at keeping up with people, and why are you such a bad friend? I'm not a neuroscientist, so there's probably a more accurate way to say this, but I'll just borrow the political buzzword of the moment. Our brains can be really weird sometimes. Our theme for this summer is Rest, Reflect, Renew. And after a few weeks of preaching about rest and grace and pleasure, encouraging all of us to go a little easier on each other and ourselves, I'm now sitting with this question. How do we still do those things while still engaging in healthy, critical self-reflection? How do we examine our actions and discern where we need to grow and change without totally spiraling into an unhealthy place, losing sleep and feeling shame, or just becoming completely stuck? Because self-reflection is really important, right? It was kind of a fun bit for me to paddle out to a tiki bar on a sunny summer day in my no regrets kayak. But I don't actually want to be a person who doesn't consider the consequences of my actions, who doesn't take accountability for the times that I cause harm, and who doesn't learn and grow when there are opportunities. And I think we're going to have ample need for some self-reflection in the coming months. We're going to be having some hard conversations as a congregation as we untangle all of the histories and patterns that led us to a place of conflict. We're going to hear some things that may be hard to hear, and we may say some things that hurt one another. And we're going to need to spend time thinking about how we got here and discern our role in the work of moving forward. And as a society, we're grappling with big questions around democracy and racial justice, climate change, and deepening divisions. We're in a period of soul searching as a nation and even as a species. How have I helped to uphold systems of oppression? How are my actions contributing to the climate crisis? How can I use my power and my gifts and talents to build the world I want to inhabit in the future? And this is all on top of the more personal questions that we all confront in our lifetime. Am I in the right job, the right relationship? Am I treating the people I care about the way they should be treated? It's no wonder that I hear from folks who lay awake at night worrying and wondering and sometimes berating themselves and want advice for how to find a better balance. Healthy self-reflection is such a cornerstone of a well-lived life that it seems like it should be intuitive. But as our reading today from Brad Aaron Maudlin reminds us, it's not. I'm sure many of us feel like we were also absent that day in 4th grade when the teacher explained how not to squirm for sound when your own thoughts are all you hear. And because it's not always intuitive, in my experience, there are a few ways that this business of self-reflection can go a little bit sideways. First, we can just do it too much. We start overthinking everything and become paralyzed by indecision, fearful of making change or taking a risk or speaking up because we're too worried about messing up. Or we become navel gazers, letting the work of self-reflection become our entire personalities, going to endless retreats and self-help seminars, and never actually putting anything we're learning into action. Too much self-reflection can make us, well, a little self-obsessed, make us overestimate the power and weight of our individual actions in a very large, very interdependent world. Second, we can do it too harshly. We can constantly beat ourselves up about every imperfection until we begin to believe that we are bad people, rather than complicated but beloved people who sometimes make mistakes. Brené Brown famously talks about this as the difference between guilt and shame, writing, "I believe that guilt is adaptive and helpful. It holds something we've done or failed to do up against our values and feeling psychological discomfort. I define shame as the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. I don't believe shame is helpful or productive," she says. "In fact, I think shame is much more likely to be the source of destructive, hurtful behavior than the solution or cure." And finally, there's the risk that we don't do enough self-reflection, that we let the gospels of grace and ease and self-love and forgiveness, which are all good things, become excuses for not taking accountability for our actions or not growing and changing when we need to. I see this all the time on social media, these kind of pop psychology posts, right, that have like bright colors and encourage you to cut all the negativity out of your life and answer to no one but yourself and just live your truth. #no regrets. So how then do we ever manage to arrive at a place of healthy self-reflection? A place where we can take accountability for our actions without convincing ourselves that we're horrible people. A place that allows us to honestly but compassionately take stock of our lives. A place that allows us to sleep through the night. I asked myself this question a lot in divinity school. As aspiring religious professionals, we're required to do a lot of self-reflecting, and some of it was more helpful than others. At one point, I found myself deep in that first category of less healthy self-reflection. I was overthinking everything, while also worrying that spending so much time thinking about myself and assessing my strengths and weaknesses for ministry was just inflating my sense of self-importance. I had a theology professor I loved, a Jesuit priest, and I wandered into his office one day, ostensibly to talk about a paper. But I think he could tell that what was on my mind wasn't academic. He was the first professor to ask me, "Danielle, how is your spiritual life?" And he introduced me to the spiritual practice of the daily examen, which I've since introduced to some of you in various workshops and events at church. And this was the thing that helped my thoughts stop spiraling. Now, the examen is a reflective prayer practice developed by St. Ignatius of Loyola, the 16th century founder of the Jesuit religious order. St. Ignatius believed that the divine was found in all things, including the activities of daily life, and he developed a number of spiritual practices meant to help people get in touch with that still, small voice. The examen is often done at the end of each day, and luckily for us, it provides a container for self-reflection that is grounded in sacred values. Now, it's a really flexible practice, but it follows a general format. So you start by acknowledging the presence of the sacred. Then you offer gratitude for the gifts of the day. And then next, you ask yourself a series of questions about that day. These are some of the ones that I use when I do it. Spirit of life, where did I see you in the day's comings and goings? On my commute, doing chores, eating meals, and running errands? Or where did I pass by too quickly and miss ordinary beauty and grace? Sacred voice, where did I hear you in the media I consumed? Where did I see you on my many devices? Or when did I scroll through my phone mindlessly as a way to drown out your voice? Spirit of community, how did I encounter you and my neighbor, my family, friends, coworkers, and the strangers I pass on the street? When did I fail to love others as I love myself? Spirit of justice and liberation, when did I align my actions and words with my most sacred values? Where were you calling me to help build the beloved community? And how did I respond to that call? And finally, Spirit of love, when did I give myself grace? Or when did I fail to show myself the same compassion I extend to others? When did I honor the sacred by caring for my own body and soul? And then you end with a simple prayer for the day to come, a recommitment to living into your values, knowing that as a human you will probably fall short, but will have another opportunity to begin again. I pray simply, Spirit of life, guide me in the day ahead as I try to see and discern your presence and follow the call to put love at the center. Now, I'm not trying to make everyone a convert to the examine prayer practice. It doesn't work for everyone, and that's fine. But I think it's a great example of how we can use spiritual practices to help aid our work of reflection and discernment. For me, in addition to providing a contained space for reflection that allows me to set my worries aside and go to sleep at the end of the day, the examine does three really important things. First, it reminds me of a loving power greater than myself. It can be God or the spirit of community or the power of the natural world, whatever works for you. But by beginning the practice by acknowledging the presence of the sacred, I'm reminded that no matter what I do, I am held in a love that will not let me go. This is both humbling and empowering. It allows me to do the work of self-reflection and the security that I will still be held in love on the other end. Second, it helps me feel connected to a wider community that I am both accountable to and supported by. I know I'm part of a lineage of people who have been praying this way for centuries, including the teacher and mentor who taught me this form of prayer. I ask questions that forefront my relationships with other people and remind me that the work of self-reflection isn't about achieving some kind of individualistic perfection, but about deepening my connections with the world around me and trying to live in service of the beloved community. And finally, it helps me stay grounded in my sacred values. If a particular worry doesn't fit into one of my examine questions, then it's probably not worth losing sleep over. By examining my day in relation to the values that I hold dear, I'm reminded that I already have the information I need to know whether or not I'm on the right path. It keeps that guidepost front and center so that I can know I'm reflecting on the things that are actually worth reflecting on. Whether we welcome them or not, I know there are questions in these coming days that are going to keep us up at night. So I invite you into the work of finding the reflection container that works for you. One that reminds you that you can take risk and admit mistakes, knowing you are still held in care. One that includes an awareness of your place in the great interdependent web of existence and the wider community of love. and one that is centered on your most sacred values. If we can develop some self-reflection practices that incorporate those three things, I believe our work of reflection will lead us away from individualism, ego, shame, and indecision, and towards greater wholeness, deeper relationships, and truer joy. This is my prayer and my hope for all of us this morning. May it be so. Amen. Now let us rise in body or in spirit and join together in singing our next hymn, One More Step. And let us sing it with our spirits pointed towards Adrienne Marie Brown's concept of the next elegant step, meaning not necessarily the physical act of walking, but of making one more choice or action rooted in love, liberation, and open-heartedness. Friends, let us go forth today knowing that deep, honest, compassionate self-reflection is holy work, but it is not always easy. May we commit to holding one another in love and supporting one another's spiritual journeys so that we know we do not have to do this work alone, that we are embraced by a community that invites us each day to begin again in love. For this is the day that you and I have been given, so let us rejoice in it and be glad. Go in peace, practice love. Amen.